Hello, welcome to Claret Blue. My name is Dan Rowlands and I'm joined here this morning by John Townley to talk about the North Stand, transport stuff and the warehouse. Villa Park's redevelopment plans explained on the podcast this afternoon. John, how are you this morning?
Yeah, good, thank you. Busy week again. I'm looking forward to the start of the new season now. It's obviously pre-season next weekend, Warsaw, and then obviously the USA. A couple more games after then. So it's coming really quickly, and this is enough to get stuck into as well. All of the Villa Park redevelopment plans. So we've been busy, haven't we?
So yesterday you went to an open consultation at Villa Park to discuss the changes and the proposals to renovate Villa Park with kind of industry experts over there. So first of all, when is work now expected to start on the North Stand? Because we all kind of thought maybe it would end up being this summer at one stage when the plans were first announced, and then obviously things have got delayed for various reasons. So when is this now actually happening?
Yeah, so firstly, I think it's probably worth saying that everything that we say in the podcast is a current plan, as we've seen changes have been made, which is fine because that's the best approach. So at the moment, the sort of demolition day as such will be after the Foo Fighters gig next summer. So I believe it's in late June. So this time in 12 months, either the North Stand will be knocked down or is about to be knocked down. So obviously that's following the end of the season. So yeah, in 12 months' time, the North Stand will probably be collapsed and won't be there anymore. That will be the time frame on that. And then Villa want to complete the new stand by May 2026. So that's 2 seasons of playing without fans in a North Stand, because it either won't be there or it will be being built during that period. So
that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time, but I think it's the most efficient way of doing it. And we'll get on to why as we move on. But it's important that Villa get it done before May 2026 as well, because obviously if the if the UK and Ireland's bid for the 2028 Euros is successful, they need 18 months to have it finished, basically completed. They can't. Yeah. It can't be on a promise, can it? Because it's construction and building. There's always going to be minor issues or unforeseen problems. So yeah, May 2026 is the deadline for when it needs to be up. So 2026 to 27 season will be the first season of a completely new stand, a new wraparound stand. Obviously, it's going to look like a bit of a bowl between the North, Doug Ellis,
and corners filled in.
Corners filled in, yeah. And it'll add about 7,400 plus seats. It's quite an undertaking, to be fair. It's honestly, it's a massive job. And obviously Villa have got other phases they want to go through to make Villa Park even grander. So
I'm sure this podcast will spark up a lot of questions from the fan base. And obviously for the rest of this video, hopefully some of those will be answered. But if they're not, please do get involved on social media. Threads now is a thing that we're on, by the way. I was going to say on Twitter, but maybe not Twitter anymore. YouTube comments, things like that. If you've got questions, put them to us and we'll try and go away and find the answers to those. One of those will be, and I know that you don't have the answer to this, but I'm going to say it now because I know it will come at some point. What happens to the people who sit in the North Stand for 2 seasons of football? That's a tricky task as well. Yeah,
it certainly is, and especially in a period where there's obviously tens of thousands on a waiting list anyway, so that it's all going to have a knock-on effect. But ultimately, Villa view this is a crucial part in the club's progression. Really, it has to happen. The club has to build a bigger stadium. So for 2 years or so of sort of managing those issues, I think it'll be worthwhile in the end. It's a huge job. It's going to take about 7 months just to prepare to knock down the stand as well. So if you're working from next June, you'd have thought it would be about January or December time when Villa will start to prepare to do all sorts of work to the electrics, to the drains, matchday safety systems as well. I think it was over 200 or so cables as well need to be redirected for broadcasting as well. So it's a huge job just to knock the thing down. So it's all hands to the pump from the team that are working really hard on it. So the tunnel where it is at the moment is now going to be put in the corner. The very corner of where the corner flag will be between Trinity and North. Again, I'll go on to it in a minute. There's some other things about that, but they're going to be knocking down the closest bay there. Again, I don't know which one, whether it's the lower or up or or if it's both, I don't know. But we'll try and get an answer on that. So yeah,
there's a lot of almost like boring logistical bits here that people maybe wouldn't realise. And before you go into this meeting to speak to architects and people that you didn't go there to speak to Aston Villa representatives who work on football matters. This is people who are working on construction and things like it. So it's some things that fans won't have even thought about. to me, you just think, knock down the stadium, you get a big bulldozer, really knock it out, get rid of the rubbish and start building the new one. But you don't think about the water systems and the drains and the electricity and like things like that. And maybe that's just me being stupid, but I imagine most people wouldn't think that it's going to take 7 months of prep before they even bring the bulldozers in. Like, that's a lot of groundwork before you even get started.
Yeah, as I say, it's a huge undertaking just to prepare to do it, let alone knock it down and then build it over the course of 2 years. So yeah, it's a huge job. The wraparound there where the Trinity meets the North Stand, there's like a Project Hoover going on as well. So Project Hoover is basically, currently there's a lot of there's an unnecessary amount of basically empty space or exits and things like that, it's basically just dead space, and Villa want to make that a more dense atmosphere around that corner of the stadium as well. So I think that's probably the reason why they're taking out that end block or end row, end bay, whatever you want to call it, of the Trinity. And yeah, clear up what they think is kind of wasted space there, and it'll be like a more dense atmosphere.
Was there any possibility of doing similar things to how Liverpool rebuilt some of Anfield, where they kind of built the stand around the existing stand and then kind of moved it into position or whatever? Like,
however that's done on skates.
I mean, I don't know how that works really, but like, so you could still use the North Stand now for those 2 seasons and kind of build around it, and then when it's all pretty much finished, you then knock down and pick it up and move it over again. How they do it, I don't know, but was that not a possibility?
Villa could have done that, but I was speaking to one of the architects or one of the builders who were at the meeting, and they basically said that Liverpool have had sort of untold problems with that, and other stadiums have had the same. Knocking the whole thing down and just doing it within 2 years is basically just the most efficient and effective way of delivering a slick sort of new stand in the quickest time possible without, like, for example, especially because it's a build, like a wraparound as well. I think that's key, because builders need to get to key parts and they won't be able to, like at Liverpool, they weren't able to get to certain parts of the stadium that they had to get to complete it on time or something like that. Knocking it down is just the easiest way of doing it. And again, there's going to be issues in terms of relocating tickets, and the match capacity is obviously going to be, quite a bit lower. There's no stand opposite the Holt anymore. It's going to look weird, but for the 2 seasons it's not there. There shouldn't be any or many more teething problems that they're going to find with it. It should just be knocked down. The new one's built within 2 years, and then Villa have got a 50,000 capacity stadium by 2026. You're hoping that Villa are in a really good position with this whole sort of saga, I suppose you could call it.
Yeah, before we get into the exciting bits of the kind of the warehouse and the new club shop and those kind of things, let's get all the boring logistical stuff out of the way with the transport links. I say boring. I don't want to kind of disrespect that it is a serious issue and something that really irritates people, that getting in and out of Villa Park is a nightmare. Basically, kind of from a bullet point perspective, and I'll get you to kind of elaborate on this, there's more car parking spaces available in the area, which is handy. The train links is a kind of an ongoing saga, is the right word actually that you use, something we say for transfers these days, but we've got a train saga at the moment, trying to get the Whitton renovated and whatnot, and also kind of taxi ranks and bus shuttles and things like that. So do you want to just give me an overview as best as you can on what the transport could look like alongside this new North Stand?
Firstly, Villa are well aware it's a massive problem, and genuinely they are working tirelessly to try and improve the transport around Villa Park, and no one's more frustrated than the people who are doing it. They're getting more complaints about transport from fans and local residents as well. Like, you kind of forget sometimes that Villa Park is in obviously the middle of a residential area, which is obviously going to have a big knock-on effect on local residents there. So yeah, they're working flat out in a bid to improve it. So they've got short-term and long-term solutions to the problems that they're facing. Obviously, long-term is going to be the trains. It's going to take a period of time for Villa to sort of see the benefits of their hard work, whether they're negotiating with train operators or Network Rail and those people. So last season, on average, there was about 3 or less than 3 trains per hour arriving at Whitton, which is obviously it's no use, especially when Villa are playing Thursday nights next season. Most people just won't use the train because it's going to be a nightmare. The club are in constant dialogue with politicians as well. They're lobbying at government level to try and find progress with it all. So genuinely, they are working extremely hard to do it, to try and push that try and find progress with it. Like, yes, Whitting can be upgraded, like I think Perry Bar was, but then the issue is that you need more train carriages ultimately, and that's going to probably take years to do. Again, there's no estimate on that. Of course there isn't, but that's quite a job to get more trains out of New Street and back to Whitting and so on and so forth. So, I mean, with Whitting, there's a clear sort of regenerative case that it should be improved and modernised and developed and enhanced, because yes, it's going to be used on a match day more often than not, but it's also going to have an impact on the local environment. It's going to look better. It's going to be more positive in the area, isn't it? So I think Villa are confident that they can find progress with it. It's just that it's not going to change overnight. You can't all of a sudden just put on more trains next week. So that's why they've got a bunch of short-term solutions as well, which you've mentioned, Dan. So obviously in the Brighton game, they had a bus shuttle running from near New Street, I believe, towards Villa Park, and about a 5-minute walk over to Villa Park from there, and then they would come every 10 minutes. So that's something that they'll probably look towards doing next season as well. And it's worth saying that I don't know if it's completely accurate, but they've basically appointed like a transport advisor, should we say, or people who can work on transport, which I think is key. That's something they haven't had before. So instead of sort of bolting all of these issues onto someone else's day job, they've now got designated people or a person to pick up the phone to operators and to try and make this progression a reality. So they've located around 3,000 opportunities for like parking spaces after a 10-minute walk from Villa Park, if that makes sense. So beyond 10-minute walk. So what they're trying to do is basically push people away from the madness, is what it's basically designed to be doing, because we all know Villa Park is super congested around the immediate vicinity, and getting out after a match day is so difficult. It's no wonder why people leave 5 plus even 10 minutes before a game ends, because you're stuck in potentially like 40 minutes of traffic sometimes, depending on where you're trying to get to. Yeah, they've located thousands of parking spaces from local businesses, schools, industrial sites, that hopefully they can sort of negotiate with those people and they can open on a match day, and it'll be much more useful. Designated Uber ranks and taxi ranks as well. I think that would be really good, because if they're all congesting around Villa Park, again, you're adding hundreds of cars onto the road at the exact time that the game finishes. So it's like a 1% plan is what they're trying to sort of name it as. So if 1% of people start to use more coaches, because we've got loads of fan clubs around Birmingham or out of Birmingham, and some games last season you'd have about 3 home coaches turn up to games, and you think, well, that could take, again, hundreds of cars off the road if people use those coaches. And it's it's all those little plans. If 1% people can use a coach, if 1% people can use the trains, use the car parks that they're going to try and use, that will add up to a huge number of people.
Just to clarify on the 1% thing, the way you phrased that there was that if 1% of people use the trains or 1% use the car park, it's not 1% of the capacity use it, it's 1% more. So these kind of marginal gains, that if 1% more people do this or 1% more people do that, overall that adds up to an increased 10% gain of positivity or whatever.
And as I said, because there's a lot of short-term stuff that they're trying to do, so shuttles, parking spaces, more so, outside, taxi ranks outside. There's a lot of, that's a lot of people using different things, which takes, because at the moment everyone does the same thing, don't they? They park within 10 minutes if they can, or most people do, and they drive out as soon as they can, or they're trying to get the first train back. So the amount of people that are doing that, even if a little amount of people don't do it anymore, there's
that all adds up.
Yes, basically.
Yeah. Let's move on to the more fun stuff then. The club shop, the warehouse, and the sports bar. So 3 sports cafe, sports bar. There's 3 kind of plans there. The club shop will now be inside the north stand. The cafe thing, sports bar, whatever you call that, is going to be, as you mentioned earlier, above the corner of where the tunnel will be, the north stand and the Trinity. And the warehouse is probably the biggest thing that people will be interested in, is what happened to Villa Live, basically. The plans that we saw of this big building being built, kind of Box Park. People that have been to Wembley will be familiar with Box Park on Wembley Day Out. That kind of environment built outside the North Stand to be an environment to go pre-match, post-match, all year round, as a destination to go to, as an entertainment venue kind of thing. So I'll ask you, what's happened to Villa Live?
At the moment, it's not being built as expected in sort of phase 1 immediately. Villa are confident that this warehouse or the Academy Summits building can basically serve pretty much most of what Villa Live was purposed for in a shorter time frame. And Villa Live is still on the table, absolutely. They're still committed to delivering that, and they have the planning permission to build that when they like. It's not running out in 5 years or anything like that. They can do it when they wish. While we don't know exactly why or when they'll do that, it's still on the table. And there's a lot of land and space behind North Stand to do that as well. I don't think there's too many issues in terms of delivering that. It's just that for whatever reason, it's not being built. Said it's going to be this warehouse building, and to be fair, I think it's a suitable.
It's in some ways I prefer it in a weird way. Like I like using an existing building. I like it's got like kind of that character of something that we already had before. So let's kind of repurpose it rather than knock that down as well and start afresh. Is that warehouse thing going to be coming in sooner than May 2026, or is this whole project as North Stand warehouse, club shop, blah blah? Is that all by May 2026?
No, warehouse will be delivered before 2026. It's not like a promise, but they'd like to, if they can, to do it before the Euros of 2024, because that would be a really nice opportunity for them to kind of put it on the map, because you've got the Euros, you've got the Paris Olympics as well. So that would be a really good opportunity. Again, that's absolutely not promised, but if that's something that can be delivered by then fantastic. So it's going to take a separate planning application, which will be going in this month. Again, as I say, it's going to sort of deliver many of the benefits of Villa Live, and it's going to have a bar, a big screen zone, food and beverage courtyard, and a multi-use floor. It can also be used for like community events, whether that's recruitment fairs, for local school kids to come and use. It can also be used as a indoor football facility as well, which is useful. And the main thing that fans will probably be looking out for is that they'll have a big micro brewery, that is big. I believe it's at the back of the warehouse as well, which will be good. I'm sure. So yeah, definitely something to look forward to, and so hopefully they can deliver that as quick as they hope to.
And there's more chance of them delivering that sooner if the building already exists, rather than knocking it down and starting from fresh to build Villa Live, and that'd be a massive 2-year project. If this thing could be done, the warehouse could be done sooner than that. Obviously, that's a benefit to everybody. Hockley Social Club is the kind of vibe I get. Digbeth Diner, that kind of big open space, bench seating, food and drink. Like it's that kind of vibe, isn't it? I get the feeling of.
Obviously, we love Hockley Social Club, don't we? Yeah, I think a lot of clubs have got similar sort of features as to what Villa are trying to implement into that as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and there's opportunities for outside space as well. Obviously, again, there's a lot of land there. They're going to put 2 new multi-use sports courts towards the back of the warehouse as well, or next to it, which will be free for public use all year round. So yeah, it's just a good opportunity to kind of create a nice, vibrant atmosphere before games. And as I say, in the off season as well, if they can use that space for the Euros or for other events, again, not promise, but if they can, then fantastic. It's something that will, invite locals round, fans round. Yeah, on Villa Live, that's still in the works, and they still are committed to delivering it. It's just not going to happen as soon as initially planned. And
then finally, this sports bar, sports cafe, sports restaurant, whatever you want to call it, or what are Villa calling it? Is it sports bar?
I don't know the exact name, but it's a sports bar cafe. So
okay, so that's going to be, as we've said, in between the Trinity and the North Stand, in the corner above where the new tunnel will be. What's this about looking down upon the tunnel through a glass ceiling or a well or whatever? What's this about?
Yeah, it wouldn't be looking down on a glass ceiling, would it?
Oh, of course, yeah, glass floor. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know exactly how it's going to look because we haven't seen the images of it. But at the moment, they're currently planning for it to have some sort of, you'd be able to visibly see.
Like Man City's tunnel
club,
tunnel club, like that kind of.
I think Tottenham have a similar aesthetic as well, but it's that vibe, and I think it's going to be at least partially looking down at the tunnel. So that'll be interesting, and that's going to be something that's going to be used as like hospitality on a match day, but then also it can be used. I don't know if it's going to be open 24/7. I have no idea, but it can also be used for Champions League nights, for example. The Villa might not be playing in.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll be in those, so of course it'll be open.
Fans can go and watch the game there, or obviously local residents too, I presume. So yeah, I think that's something that's needed as well, kind of bringing Villa Park or making it more of a destination for all year round, not just for a match day. And I think that's key for getting sort of sign-offs on like the station and things like that. It's key because it needs to be as Villa want it to be. They say an active lifestyle destination, somewhere where you can go, which is Aston Villa, but it's got everything that you need from that you'd use in Birmingham in town or on the high street or whatever. So yeah, it is really exciting. I think there's going to be a jumbo screen as well, where it currently is between, or where one of them is at least, between the Doug Ellis and North Stand. I think it's now twitching sides to where the little mini scoreboard is, where it will just have the time and the sort of narrow one. I think they're putting the jumbo one there as well. So yeah, it is exciting. And then nothing to do with the phase 1 plans, but it was mentioned at the meeting as well, the Holt pub, where anyone want the pork scratchings, that guy where he is. I think they're trying to potentially rejuvenate that as well and renovate that into something. I think that's got a huge potential to be a really nice fan zone, and sort of, again, like an atmosphere destination where you can go to the pub.
And like we said earlier, when you're coming to watch a game, like again, regardless of whether it's open 5 days a week or whatever, when you're there for the 19 match days plus throughout the course of a season, 3 o'clock kickoff, say, you don't want 40,000 or 50,000 people leaving the area at 5 p.m.
Same time,
you want 10,000 to stick around at the warehouse or whatever it's called, 3,000 at the Holt pub, 2,000 in the sports bar hospitality, 1,000 million around the club shop, and then the people who do leave the stadium can get away easier because I don't know, 25% of the crowd don't leave at 5 o'clock; they leave at 7 o'clock. That's the kind of overall narrative that they want to build. Yeah,
and they're leaving on different modes of transport, and they're leaving in different destinations, to the extent of where the transport issues basically aren't felt by anyone, including the local residents who, again, would you forget 50,000 or 42,000 people are leaving the stadium at the same time, and that's obviously been happening for a long time now anyway. But yeah, that's just something like extra. The whole pub could potentially be something like that. And again, there's no promise on that, but they'd like that to be another potential fan zone destination.
Overall positive is what's come from this meeting. Yes, it's slightly annoying that when we first saw these images of the North Stand redevelopment, last summer was it? We were all thinking maybe this year the groundwork will start to begin, the trains will be approved. Here we are now in July 2023 and still nothing's happening, and it won't be until June 2024 till work starts to happen, and the stadium won't be available to sit in till August 2026. It's a long time away, isn't it? It's 3 years away effectively till we can get to use these facilities, and that's a slight frustration or a slight kind of annoyance. But overall, when this does happen, it's going to improve Villa Park and the surrounding area massively and kind of elevate the profile of the club. And hopefully 3 seasons or 2 seasons, 3 seasons is a long time in football. Where will Villa be when all this is happening? Like, God forbid anything bad happens and we've got all these shiny new things and we're not a very good football team. Hopefully we're kind of welcoming that 2026 season with Champions League nights and trophies and things as well. So hopefully the trajectory of the football club goes up in the same speed as the stadium and things as well. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for sharing your insight from that meeting yesterday. As I said at the start of this will inevitably raise questions amongst the supporters. So if you've got one, let us know. Get in touch on various social media and in the YouTube comments down below, and we will try and find out the answers to those over the next however long.
And if this has been a bit of ranty, because we're just reading notes, to be honest, that we'll link the article as well, which is the sort of more holistic view of everything. Yeah,
of course. So, John, thanks for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for watching along with this video. As always, there's absolutely loads of content coming on Claret Blue at the moment. It's the off-season, but we're still here. We're still very busy, as always. So there's loads going on. So stay with us. Stay subscribed to the channel and follow us on various social media, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. And we'll see you again very soon.